keep 15 minutes for open discussion. Even if you don't have any questions, we can have some discussion like on the topic, of course, limited to the topic. That would be really good. Because right now we are getting into the Atma, Anatma, Viveka. So this portion needs to be very clearly, at least intellectually understood. Even that intellectual understanding is always helpful. So we can pick Vijay's brain, and also all the experienced people are here. So we can have some good discussions. So let's go to verse 26, because last week what we did was, as requested by a couple of people, I went through the first 25 verses. We did a whole recap. So now we can proceed further, because 3 weeks was there as a gap. So everybody wanted to like get refreshed. So that's what we did last week. Anu, are you in the call?
Okay, yes, Rajesh.
Yeah, you can chat, please.
Atmano vikriya nasti buddhe bodho na chatvati jiva sarvamalam jnatva jnata drashteti muhyati.
This is very important, simple looking verse, but we need to understand the details, right? So, Atmano Vikriya na asti. So, Vikriya means change or movement or whatever it is. So, we are talking about what is Atma and what is not Atma. That is the Atma, Anatma, Viveka, or that differentiation between what is Atma and what is not Atma is what is being discussed here. So, grounding on a few things. One is, when I say Rajesh or Bhunaji or Rohitji or Jeena or Vijay or Rajesh Menon or any one of you, right? So, who are you? If I consider myself as Rajesh, born on some particular day, will be dying on one particular day, then who am I? I can say that I'm a combination of a physical body. I can say that it is a combination of physical body, subtle body, and which is enlivened by Atma. So where exactly am I identifying? If I am identified with that compound entity, which is a combination of these three, I am subjected to birth, I am subjected to growth, and I am subjected to death. Because that I will come to an end at a point of time. Correct? We need to be very clear. And if I identify myself with the subtle body alone, which is what we call as soul, then what happens? This soul was there prior to this manifestation as Rajesh. It would have been something else in the past life and something else in the previous life, and it would be something else in the future. And this journey will continue till I get moksha, or till the end of this cycle happens. At the end of the cycle, what is going to happen? The subtle body will be dismantled and the information will be stored in the causal body, and that causal body will continue to exist after the pralaya in a seed form. And when the universe manifests in the next cycle, a subtle body will be created out of the causal body, and that causal body, from the pool of Sanchita karma, pull out a subset called Prarabdha karma and manifest a new physical body. While I live in that physical body, I will acquire new karma, which is called Agami karma or Kriyamana karma. And at the end of that life, whatever that is not yet materialized, right, that will be added to the pool of Sanchita karma, and a new set of Prarabdha karma will be taken out, and the birth will continue. This is the law of karma. So hope this is very clear, right? This is a belief system. I cannot prove it, I cannot disprove it, but this is the law of karma. So now, when you say that Who am I? Typically, when I say I, if you really think about I, the sense of I-ness comes from where typically? Is that coming from Atma? Or is that coming from subtle body? Or is that coming from the physical body? Have you ever thought of that?
It's physical body all the time.
But physical body cannot think. Physical body by itself is inert and insentient. So what happens is the subtle body, right? Your mind, there is a vritti in the mind. And that vritti is the ahambodha or the ego, whatever you call, right? Ahankara. Ahankara is not but ahamkara. It is a sense of I-ness. So it is a subtle chitta vritti. It is a mental event. And when that mental event born, it will born, like it will be active when you are awake. This will be active. When you are awake, what happens? Your the sense of I-ness, attach your physical body with it and say that this is me. And when you are in a dream, what happens? The sense of I-ness is still active. It will identify with your dream world, dream body, and think that I exist. And in deep sleep, what is going to happen? This ego also is not dormant. So you don't feel the sense of I-ness. So this is very important. So you can consider this like an operating system. So we said like the software is subtle body. If that is the case, the hardware is physical body. The operating system, whether it is Windows or Linux or Mac OS, whatever it is, the operating system can be considered like the sense of individuality. On top of that, the other chittavrittis will come and go. And mind you, all your other chittavrittis are dependent upon, like, I think, okay, I like this object, but that sense of I-ness is already employed. So just like all the other programs, for example, if you want to invoke MS Word, you have to have that operating system already up and running. So like that in the normal world, whenever we encounter a thought or a feeling or anything like that, what is going to happen? The sense of I-ness is still there. Even I is a vritti. This is very important. This is very important. Means we are going into depth, deep Vedanta, which is covered under the Upanishads. So the sense of I-ness, it is there. That is a chitta vritti. And on top of that chitta vritti, the other vritti will come. And I feel that I like this particular talk. I like this meditation, right? When you do the meditation, the feeling of good you experience is again experienced by that sense of I-ness. So what happens? Even after enlightenment, that sense of I-ness, that operating system will be there. But you are shifting your identity from there to the Atma. That's all. Because that won't go even after the sense of enlightenment. Because without that ahankara, you cannot operate. And there is a disease. If that sense of I-ness is not there, there is a disease in the neurology. So this is very important point I wanted to highlight. So now, yep.
So Rajanji, how is this sense of I-ness different from the subtle body?
Subtle body is not just the sense of I-ness, right? The subtle body has other aspects. The subtle means, for example, you have a feeling that I am Arnab, right? So that feeling is there. But on top of that, you know that you are aware of that camera, or you are aware of your wife, you are aware of your kid, right? All that awareness means is happening in your subtle body. And what exactly is that awareness? When you say that you see your child, what does that really mean? If you really think about the theory of perception, you're seeing your child physically, your eyes are capturing the image, and that image will be represented as a mental event in your subtle body. And then only you're seeing it, isn't it? So the physical, the subtle body is not just the sense of I-ness. The sense of I-ness is just one component of your subtle body. So if you really think about the whole faculty called the mind, it is divided into 4 major categories, if you remember in the Vedanta theory. Anybody remember what are all the 4 functional components of your human mind?
Manu, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara.
Exactly. That is what it is. So manaha means the place of your feelings. Buddhi means what? It is the place of your thinking, rational analysis. Chitta is the memory, and ahankara is the sense of I-ness. Manaha, buddhihi, chittaha, ahankaraha. This is the means one major component of the manomaya kosha. And the subtle body is a little bit more than that. Subtle body, if you remember, we studied in the introduction to Vedanta, what constitutes the subtle body? Even in the Atmabodha, we saw that. It is the power of perception also, right? The sense of vision, the power of touch, the power of taste, all that is also part of subtle body. Pancha prana, the 5 energy sources like prana, apana, udana, samana, all that is also part of subtle body. So per traditional Vedanta, there are 19 components for the subtle body. So this is what it is. So coming back, so this sense of I-ness. So how this sense of I-ness comes? Because I feel that I am talking, I am acting, I am thinking, I am moving, all that I feel. So Shankaracharya here talk about that deluded ego. There is no problem in having that sense of I-ness, but the sense of I-ness think that I am the subject. In fact, that is not the subject. That is the theme of this verse, the deluded ego. Mind you, this is a very, 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 very subtle topic. This is typically what is discussed in the Upanishads, but Shankaracharya brings that here. So he tells, Atmano vikriya na asti. There is no change in the Atma. There is no change in the Atma. So how can I feel that I'm angry? I'm sad. Meaning when the ego thinks that I'm angry, what does that mean? The state of that I-ness got changed. When I see that I am moving, it changed. So it is crystal clear that the Atma, which is the consciousness, that does not change. And then what? He tell buddho. Buddho here means mind. That is, it's a synonym for mind also. This is where we need to be careful with Sanskrit. And the mind do not have any skill to know. It is inert and insentient. So the mind do not have any capacity to know by itself. Just like if you have the computer, if you have the hardware, if you have the operating system, and I cannot play the PowerPoint because it do not have the power to enliven the system. So if it is subtle body and the physical body and the ego alone, it will not function because it inert and insentient. Whether it is physical matter or subtle matter. So whether it is a computer hardware or it is the hard disk with TBs of data, it cannot by itself do anything. So Atma will not change, whereas the mind is insentient. So then what happens? So this jiva means the individual self. It wrongly assumes that you see, you know the objects because what? Considering yourself as an individual person. So jiva sarvamamalam yatva. So this jiva will consider you because it's a delusion created. Because when you are identified with the physical body and subtle body very closely, the individual self in you will think that you are seeing, you are acting, you are doing everything. But the essential you is Atma, which is do not see, do not act, and do not do anything. Like even when you see, like Gina, you are talking about the mindfulness. When you do the mindfulness, you can stay separately from the events happening external world. In the initial stages, what is that? It means your individuality is staying separately, that vritti is staying separately and looking at everything else. But since even then what happened? The sense of I-ness is still there. Mm-hmm. So it's a next level. You have to go beyond that sense of I-ness, and you should be able to look at the ego or the individuality separately from yourself. You can see that, okay, this is the operating system that is going to make my system stable. Don't call means ego is the operating system. That's only an example. So you have to shift that attention. So this is very important, because even your ahankara is a vritti. That's it. It's a mental activity, and it is a function of your mind, and that is different from your atma. And when all these things come so closely, what happens? This delusion happens. We saw in a couple of verses back. What was that? You saw that like a crystal. That crystal was there. The color of the crystal is white and it is pure. And when you put that crystal on top of a blue cloth, the crystal appears to be blue. So when the Atma elements the physical, the subtle body, the ego, and the other vrittis, and which is already associated with the physical body, I feel that, okay, I am an independent entity. I'm an independent entity, separate from everything else, and I am part of this whole system. Meaning I'm separated from all these systems, and that is what it is. And Shankaracharya brilliantly paints that picture. And this is, if you understand this, this is the Vedanta. At least you can say that you got the fundamentals of Advaita Vedanta. That is the least thing you can get, and the maximum possibilities you can get enlightened. So the minimum, at least you can say that you know the fundamentals of Advaita Vedanta. This is a sentence Swami Sarvapriyarananda told me very personally.
So Rajeshji, question, like as you were saying that in that mindfulness meditation, you know, when you still know that you are the one who has dissociated yourself. How is it even possible to disconnect yourself from the ego, from the I-ness?
Oh, definitely. It is through the understanding. So first of all, it is two-step. In the current state, what is going to happen? In the current state, you are so much attached with the physical body and even with the other vrittis. So even you cannot stay back and feel the emotions in you. Please listen carefully, right? For a typical individual, what happens is when he gets angry, or when he gets sad, or when he gets jealous,
He becomes the anger.
he cannot differentiate, he cannot sit back and see that properly.
Yeah.
And that is the power of mindfulness. That is the step number one.
Right.
So the mindfulness helps you to be away from the other vrittis, from a subjective, but where the subject is what? My individuality. Vedanta, what it tells is, when your mind is pure, when your mind is calm, and when in that deep silence, right? When there is no, means that is what the approach of the Patanjali Yoga Sutra style, Patanjali style. So Patanjali's method is, right? So what happens is, what Patanjali tells, which is clarified by Vyasa in his commentary is, so imagine that you're placing that crystal on a cloth. Whenever you see, what is the color of the crystal? It is blue. For you to separate that blueness from the scripture is, the crystal, what you need to do is, at least once you need to see the crystal without that cloth. Isn't it?
Yes.
If you see that, then you can logically think that, okay, this blueness comes from the cloth. So the approach of the Patanjali Yoga Sutra is, you are trying to gain control over the mental activities in deep meditation, right? So that is why he calls different types of samadhi, like Savikalpa, Sananda, Sasmita, like that 5 or 6 type of samadhis. He stepped through different steps, different meditations. He will take you to a stage where it's no mental activity is happening practically. It is impossible outside of meditation, right? Because your body itself is going to trigger some thoughts. So the approach here is, your mind is quietened to that extent that you will be able to see that infinite happiness. You will experience, call it nimisha samadhi, like a temporary experience. But then when you that is going to give you an ability to, oh God, this is my real nature. I'm getting that much of happiness. Like people who are addicted to meditation is like, means there are people who are addicted to meditation. It is so much intoxicating, like a drug, because that much level of happiness you are bringing up. So, but that is won't give you the moksha. But then what happens if you can experience that? Then if you have a pure mind and a controlled mind, the knowledge will start working. You will be able to see who am I and what is the apparatus allowable, allowed to me, means given to me. This is very important, this differentiation. So it's very important that we need to understand what happens in mindfulness and what is happening before the mindfulness. Like if you are not mindful, what happens? Somebody says something, immediately you react, and you're not even aware of that. You're completely closely identified, not just with the ego or the ahankara, but even with the other vrittis that popped up. See, the level of psychology, see this here. This is pretty much common to Buddhist psychology and Vedic psychology. The book I quoted last week, it gives a lot of insights into this. A discussion between a lot of scientists and Buddhist monks. The book's name is called Destructive Emotions, if anybody wants to read. And it even talks about the kleshas, it talks about the rope snake example, it talks about all this cloth, crystal example, all that comes. Mind you, that book is written by
Daniel Goleman.
Not Daniel Goleman, it's a group of scientists. Daniel Goleman compiled it, but there is a neurologist, there is a psychologist, there is philosophers, almost all the experts from different domains. That is what it is. But it means they didn't say this as a matter of fact. They didn't invent anything. You can see in all these books it is there. So please understand this. So Atma is changeless. It cannot move. It cannot happen. It means any change will happen. The nature of the Atma is consciousness, whereas the subtle body, it cannot know by itself. It is inert and insentient. But when these two together, what happens? You create a delusion that you are different, and you have to unwind one by one. And in the previous verse, Shankaracharya gave another beautiful example. When you are in the dream, are you really identified with your physical body?
No.
But still, what is exactly is your feeling? I'm running.
Yes.
So that is what is called abhyasa. It is very, very important to understand.
Rajesh,
This is more, right? This is what is going to come a lot, and later, if you get an opportunity to study Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the later portion of the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, you will understand, and you will understand how many different meditation techniques were given to go from one step to the other to the other. It is very systematic. Okay. Any questions? And Vijay, I know that this is one of your favorite topic. You want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. Maybe at the end of the discussion, or
No, you can.
itself?
This verse itself you can add. Yeah, please
sure.
feel free to have discussion, because this is not a class, right? We always wanted to discuss and learn. This is a very, very
this
difficult.
is probably one of the most profound topics, right? I would say that. See, this in the ego, I think they are very appropriate questions. Like, this is the questions we asked at least a billion times. This ego thing, how it goes, right? That is so. This is one of the debates that I had with the Swami Atmananda also. That is right. When I start work, start driving in the morning, sometimes I wouldn't know how I got to the work actually, right? So it's like an autopilot there. So that means, was I in a meditation full, Swamiji, I was asking that. So, but coming to the serious topic here. So, in terms of the action and the actor, right? How do we act in this world? That is right. So, we're talking the other day, right? So, kritena akritaha na asti, Mundaka Upanishad, right? So, if you do any action, by doing action, we will not get the moksha thing, that is right? So kritena akritaha na asti, that is. And Ramana Maharshi also says the same thing, karma tajadam, right? Karma itself is a jadam, basically, that is. So every time you commit an action, that means you're creating more karma, getting more into the same loop, basically. You never get out of that is. Right? But the other end, Bhagavad Gita says that karmanam anarambat naishkarmyam na purushnoshtite. Right? So sanyasanat eva, right? So siddhim na samadhi gacchati, that is. So that means you must act also, it says here. There we cannot act. Here, so you must act, that is. So is there any contradiction? No. The question is how we have to do how we perform the action in the world. That's what they're trying to say, that, right? So without having a me agenda, right? There is no personal agenda. There is an agenda, but there is no personal agenda, right? So that's the trying to make a distinction between these two things, that is. That's where the difference is. The I-ness is lost there, basically. Yeah.
Right. And Gina, why don't you just, if you want to talk a couple of words about mindfulness, because in mindfulness, exactly you're trying to detach or separate yourself from the other thoughts, right? That is it gives your ability to sense the emotions. That is the skill you're building.
Yeah, I mean, in the practice that we do is that it's almost like a script. We are scripting everything that's going through your mind. So my question was actually, is it really the ego that is noticing? So Rajesh, thanks for clarifying that. But in the practice, we say that, for example, even walking, when we even say that, okay, our the leg is the right leg is up, and right leg is on the in the air, and now the right leg is on the floor, and it's the applying pressure. So every single thing that's going on, if we can script it, so that's what the mindfulness is, like going through one by one, so that we don't miss even a single thought that is passing through our mind. Correct. So that's what we are practicing.
But actually, if you translate that into a scientific language or a perception language, you're trying to objectify your thoughts.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? You're trying to see everything in an objective form. You're separate so that you can see it. The problem is what? Typically, you are already identified with that. So you're not even seeing it. So that is step number one. This is pretty much part of that practice. This is very important.
But the beauty of that is, just to add to what Gina said, Rajesh, so beauty of that is that just to watching our thoughts itself is enough to solve the problem there, that is.
Absolutely.
There is no need to act on it again to correct. There is no corrective action is not necessary there, that is.
Absolutely. No, yeah. I see that the point I was making is different. I was just saying that I was not even talking about the corrective aspect. Yeah. I was just saying that you're separating yourself from the thought.
Yeah.
You're stepping back and you're seeing your own thoughts.
Yeah.
You're observing. But typically that is not happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Maybe that thought becomes me. I am angry. Here I sense that anger comes to me. If you practice mindfulness, you can even sense that in your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, there's a beautiful book. I forgot the name. Savoring. Yeah, Savoring. It is called one. Means the author's name is Barbara something. Like I forgot. Savoring is a beautiful book. It is going to give you all these techniques. Like how can you detach yourself from this and self-awareness, in other words. That is a very, very, very powerful, means when you say self-awareness, it is not Atma Jnanam, but it is the awareness of the thoughts. Yeah. Even in emotional intelligence, what they call as self-awareness is not Atma Jnanam. It is the ego or the ahamkara is identifying all the thoughts, all the feelings happening. Typically, the body gives you the sign. And you ignore it, right? Typically, if you have a stress, you can feel that as a muscle tension. And if you're angry, right, you can always get that feeling like some dashboard will come up. Something in the dashboard will come. But we don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I recall, many years ago when I just joined Merck, and I was so intimidated by when I have to give a presentation to our VPs, all the senior executives, everything. I was so scared. I could literally see the, shivering myself, right? And that's when I started studying the Vedanta. And this is the particular technique that really helped me lift out of that issue that was.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Just observe who is that person that is actually getting afraid of that, giving a talk, right? That is, so that really, you start observing itself, then there is no that person there who is really afraid of there, that is.
Right. The Patanjali Yoga Sutra is going to give us a brilliant technique. So it tells when you are stressed a little bit, not to that extent, when you have a little bit positively stressed, it is giving you the adrenaline and all these hormones to energy.
Yeah.
So if you are mindful, what happens? You can use that energy to enhance your performance. If you are mindful, mind means understand, right? If you are mindful, you can use that energy to enhance your performance. But if you are not mindful, where exactly that is going to go?
Destruction.
You will means feel afraid. Means let's say that you are going for a public presentation, talk. So where exactly you need to focus your energy? You wanted to make sure that you are looking at the audience, you are talking your content flawlessly, you are reading the face of the people. If you are not mindful, what happens? This fear and anxiety will come, and you will focus all your attention there, and the speech will go.
So Rajaji, I had a question on that point, right?
Yeah.
Isn't the effect of mindfulness to nullify the potency of this energy to begin with? For example, if I'm feeling angry, and then if I'm mindful, then I know that I'm not the anger, and the anger goes away.
Not completely, because you recognize the presence of the anger. Let's say fear. Let's take this, right? So little bit of fear is going to make you more alert. Otherwise, you'll be very too casual. Correct? So a little bit of fear, if it helps you to focus. So that means, see, the fear is in my hand. For example, a little bit of fear is there. And if I'm mindful and if I have control, what happens? I can pull out the other tools from my mind. I can pull out the other, means I can call my alertness. I can call my memory. I can be mindful of my body language. Have you seen people? It's very interesting when sometimes when somebody speaks, oh my God, some people will shake their head, some people will hit like this, some people will kick the floor. All that is the expression of the fear and the tension. So you understand, right? Mindfulness will help you to pull, because your mind has a lot of tools. Toolboxes are there as skills. But what happens? You're pulling inappropriate things.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's an excellent question, actually. So when you master the technique, you use this technique at will. When you need it, you apply that one.
Yeah. That's my question, Vijayji. That will the practice of mindfulness actually allow me to control my mental faculties?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely,
100%.
yes. Yeah.
And that is the beauty of mindfulness.
Yeah. I'm really thrilled actually to see these questions. So everybody's thinking, I could see that, at home. It's not just a class, but people are thinking, trying to apply these ones.
Yeah.
Yep. That's excellent question. Unless you've been working on it, you would not ask that question.
No,
Yeah.
thank you, Vijayji. But I've been working on it in a very futile manner. I have not been able to make any progress, no matter how much I work. It's very frustrating. I understand, but because my simple thing is when I feel angry, for example, or when I'm under the control of some other kind of a negative mental state that I don't want to be in, it's already too late. I cannot dissociate myself from that from that ocean anymore. I'm already trapped.
Yeah. So are you practicing, see, for example, are you practicing the Upasana Yoga and Karma Yoga diligently or not? It's okay to have that, because See, every mind is designed like that. That is why we are keeping all those examples, the cloth and the crystal, these athyasas, everything. So don't be frustrated with yourself, right? Because this is the natural state of every mind. And you are trying to move away from that. So it is going to take its time and it is going to take its practice. But are you meditating 5 times a day? Means at least 5 minutes a day. And are you practicing karma yoga diligently? This is very important. Without that practice, means any amount of talking will not make that result comes. And then actually you need to practice all these self-awareness techniques also, the meditation, which we are going to talk about all these things in the Gita later. But this practice is mandatory. Karma yoga, upasana yoga. Are you doing Panchamahayajnas without fail? Because the beauty of this Panchamahayajna is typically what happens. The automatic thought comes to my mind. Who has the control? So to the point you were saying, Arnabji, right? So when you see a situation, Vijay, you might be remembering when we were having that first study group, somebody was telling, I don't want to name the person, but somebody was telling, like, if he sits near his wife driving, he gets uncontrollable anger, even if even if she drives properly. Why? Because the moment you get into the car, the moment you see her driving, this is the thought comes to my mind. And then the other thoughts are triggered from that thoughts. So where exactly you need to get hold of that? The first thought. And karma yoga, the beauty of the karma yoga is it is going to put positive thoughts. Means when the positive and negative are all Western terminologies, but we have to borrow some of these terminologies. Otherwise,
yeah. But the fact that you're getting frustrated, that means you're after the results too soon. That is too quick. You're expecting the results right away. That is, so you won't be able to get on the bike right away. You need to practice it a little bit, right? So like that, I was exactly going to say what Rajesh said just now. It's a practicing, basically. I'm sure you would have attended Gina's class. So you have to sit, at the same place every day, same time. That's really the mind trick you play, that one, right? So same place, same time. So like a 5 to 10 minutes, at least minimum, you should do that. Yeah.
It's a skill. It's a skill you need to develop.
Learnable
Think
skill.
about this. Think about this, right? So your mind is occupied with all these functions or subroutines.
Yeah.
As I said, like alertness
or habit,
like focus, or like there are or memory, right? Even whatever you studied, like suppose you are, I don't know, like initially I found that it was so surprising for me to believe that after the fear of death, the second biggest fear is the fear of public speaking.
Yep.
You say that. And so how these skills means there are 2 things you need to do, right? That's why in the power of the definition of a teacher given in Upanishad is 2 words. It's so powerful. One is Shotriya, the second one is Brahmanishta. One has to be skilled. If you don't have skill, even if you are in control, you cannot call that power. So you need to be skilled. You need to train yourself to gain all these skills. The power of focus, the power of attention, like speaking properly. You have to have good vocabulary. All these things you need to train yourself. Second thing is what? You need to have this ability to detach yourself and call the appropriate tools when it is required. And typically what happens? This superimposition is so powerful, and I cannot even make use of the tools available in my own toolbox.
So just one more point on that, Rajesh. So the result is not independent of your practice, right? In fact, result is dependent on your practice. That is right. The result will be proportionate to your work. That is. So if you're expecting too much, you're getting frustrated. Means you're expecting the results, disproportionate to your practice. Right. So forget about the result. You would soon be surprised actually how much progress you would make. And you forget about the result. Just keep practicing. In a few months, a few weeks, few months, you would surprised.
So Vijayji, my concern is that what if I'm not practicing correctly, which is why I'm not getting results.
That's where
that you can talk to Gina and sit and then that should not be a problem actually. Talk to her, and even we can make one-on-one meeting. You can just go through all these things actually. That can be set easily corrected. Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
That is the advantage we have, right? As I means, that is the goodness, the benefits we get out of a satsang, a group of people which means who can help each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to Geeta. Yeah.
Yes.
We can connect Arnabji.
Yeah, absolutely, Geena ji. So Rajaji, I was not practicing karma yoga or the Pancha Mahayagnas at all.
Yeah, so this karma yoga is very important. Means a lot of people think that I can directly go to meditation, but even if you take the Raja Yoga, the Patanjali yoga path, right? Swami Vivekananda highlights, means he buckets everything into 4 major buckets. The entire spiritual practice, famous, very famous, right? Bhakti, Jnana, Karma, and Raja Yoga. He's the one who called the Patanjali method as Raja Yoga, and you should read his Raja Yoga. It's amazing, like a series of lectures. Here in New York only he conducted that class. Vijay and I had a chance to visit that place a couple of years back. You all should go. I forgot the name. Where was that, Vijay? It's in upstate New York, right? Somewhere.
I know. Ridgely,
exactly.
Ridgely
is the place he taught the Yoga Sutra.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Okay, so coming back to the point, Vivekananda said you have to do a mix. And now, if you take the Patanjali scheme, those who are so fond of meditation, what is when Patanjali is saying you should do the meditation? First, you have to do what? Yama and Niyama. Yama and Niyama is moral living, a dharmic life. That is very important. Without that, you cannot replicate. And that is why the Krishna's methodology is the best. Karma yoga and Upasana yoga. Karma yoga is external practice, and this Upasana yoga is predominantly an internal practice. So Karma yoga is like proper work with proper attitude, because even that attitude is very important. So Ramana Maharshi brilliantly summarizes the Karma yoga into this Upadeshasara. He tells, Ishwara arpitam na ichchaya kritam. What is the benefit? Chitta shodhanam, mukti sadhakam, kayavan mana karyamuttamam, pujanam japa, chindanam kramat. So this is the sequence. You start with the Karma yoga, and then you go to Upasana yoga. And what is the benefit? Chitta shodhanam. It will purify your mind and stabilize it. And what is the benefit of that? Mukti sadhakam. It will lead to the moksha. Of course, it is not going to give the moksha. Moksha can be gained only through knowledge, but this prerequisite is mandatory. Without that, and if you take Bhagavad Gita, means Atmabodha, 80% of the Atmabodha is about knowledge. But if you take Bhagavad Gita, 80% of the verses are focusing on yoga.
Yeah.
Anything you say, Krishna will finally tie that back to yoga. Remember that story I was joking? That is the classic example of how Krishna brings everything back to yoga. Just I'll tell the story in 2 sentences. This is a very good story told by Swami Chinmayananda. He's a master storyteller, right? So back in India, during our times, especially not that big schools were there. So typically in local medium school, the local vernacular driven school, how they teach is like essays. The teacher will give an essay. You will by heart the essay, and in the exam you will go and write the essay, right? So that's what they do. So one student, he learned an essay about the coconut tree. So he knows only but coconut tree. First term exam came in. So they asked about a cow instead of a coconut tree. So this guy wrote, the cow is a good and useful animal. It gives us milk. It can be tied in a coconut tree. And then he started writing about the whole coconut tree. Second term came in. Instead, means the coconut tree was not asked. They asked about a hen or a, hen. So what to do? He started saying that it's a useful bird. It cannot be tied in a coconut tree. And then he started writing about the whole coconut tree. So anything you ask in the Gita, 90% of the Gita is yoga. Yoga, yoga, yoga. Anything you do. In 8th chapter you see, the 10th chapter you see, every chapter, because Krishna is saying that it is, and even in the 3rd chapter, the opening of the 3rd chapter, Arjuna is asking, you say that the knowledge alone can give the moksha. And you are asking me to do the action. How is it possible? And even Arjuna criticizes, right? He said, Vyamishrenena vakyena buddhim mohayati sivame. Tadekam vadanishita ena shreyo hamanya. He said, Vyamishrenena vakyena buddhim mohayati sivame. You're confusing my mind. That's what Arjuna tells. So this is very important to understand. And 90% of the spiritual lectures, they talk only on the knowledge part, ignoring the other part. Without yoga, the knowledge will not work. And Shankara was very clear about that.
Rajeshji, while we are talking on the meditation, I have a question. It really helps because I started doing that. 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 12 minutes I've come to. And it really helps because one of the reasons I wanted to do it for a long time, but it never happened. But recently I realized that I have a little high BP. My diastolic numbers are a little high. So I somehow wanted to bring it down because I don't want to take any medicine. So I started doing this guided meditation by Sarva Priyanandaji. It's really good. 12 minutes he does it and I was able to do it. I tested myself sitting here when my husband is watching TV. So I could put this ear thing, headset, and I was listening and I was able to do it. But then in another one, he said that without any guidance, you have to do meditation. That became very difficult for me.
Yeah, it is difficult.
How do I go to that level? Because I'm only depending on this
script, the guided script, the instruction.
Yeah, how can I do without that?
I'll tell one simple technique to start, and then Geena can jump in and she can give so many techniques. So it was difficult for me also. Like when I started this, it was very difficult. When I asked Swami Dayananda, almost a very similar question, like almost 20 years back, when I had a private conversation with him, he said, just do one thing. This is very important. You make sure that every day you're mindful about one breath, just one, right? So focus on your breath in such a way that your life is dependent upon that. You don't need any script for that. Okay? So you know that it is coming, it is going in, and it is coming back. One breath. So since it is very small, your mind will not distract. And just practice that. And then do that 3 times, 4 times, different times. Eventually you get it. That is one simple way to start. And Geena, do you have any other techniques? Even the Pranavikshana is good, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, for me also, it took almost a year to get a few seconds within that minute to focus on whatever the object of meditation we are doing. The Pranavikshana is really good. So the counting from the breathing, like you feel like it's going from nose and the windpipe, because what it gets bored is actually inactivity. If we just sit, don't do anything, that is the actual meditation. However, our mind is not designed to do that. It will go on. So instead of playing with 100 thoughts or playing with 100 toys, we just replace it with one toy. That is either the breath or Rajesh said, just do it such that you're going to die, right? Just focus that much so that you can know every single of that one. And I think Meng said that beautifully in that book, Search Inside Yourself. For example, don't sit longer. So we usually try to sit, okay, I want to do meditation for half an hour. Don't sit longer. If our capacity is for, like say 10 minutes, then sit only 5 minutes, even sit less than that. So we will not feel that boredom or we will not feel that frustration, because that 5 time we feel like accomplished or something like that. So do it less time, because more time of not doing anything is better than less time of just
exactly. And this meditation never should become an overhead. because then it is going to.
No, I started feeling that it's helping me because I checked my BP before and I do it after. And you will not believe it just brings 10 to 15 numbers down.
Easily. That is
I
proven.
was so impressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this
But
is
the
so
thing
good.
is, your understanding that the BP will come down is an intellectual understanding. But what is distracting me is different. So we need to have that balance. So this technique of Swamiji, and he used to give this in almost all the lectures also. I heard that in a couple of other lectures. I'll give you one more source, which is so good. One of the best book you can do is like, there is a 47-page book. It's means you get that for 99 cents in Amazon or something like that. It is called Art of Contemplation. Art of Contemplation by Swami Chinmayananda.
I would like to share my 2 cents, Bhunaji. So in terms of the meditation, right? So we are getting frustrated with the meditation means we're not doing the right way, right?
I'm not getting frustrated. I want to know the technique of
I'm telling, that's what I'm telling you, that
the guided meditation.
Now let's redefine this meditation. Okay, meditation means without thinking anything. We have half an hour, 1 hour, we have to sit like that, right? It's impossible. That is, we are just expecting the impossible. That's not yet. Sit quiet wherever you want, one place, allocate a time. That is, these are the 2 must do things. That is, same time of the day, same place. That is, must do things. And the next step, whatever the time you allocate, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that's fine. Sit quiet and pick whatever you want to do. One is listen to your music if you want. Listen to that. Or you want to pick a mantra, simple mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, right? Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Or you want to just pay attention to your breath, just Gina explained just now. For most of the people that works actually, that's fine to anything. So everybody works a different way, that is.
Yeah.
Right? So now,
yeah.
I don't know, for some reason the watching the breath, right? I do it during my yoga. So I'm thinking that is separate from that.
It's mind always associates something with that, right? So this book gives you 5 different beautiful techniques. And the first technique itself is so beautiful. It worked well for me, actually.
Okay. But here is the key, Bhunaji. This is the point I wanted to mention. So pick whatever you want, right? Let's say you pick something. Let's say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. You keep saying that one, let's say, right? Now, after saying like 5 times, mind will go to somewhere else, that is. Right? And when you realize that mind is not there, you just bring it back and continue that one.
Correct.
In the beginning, every 2 seconds it just escapes, that is. And as you start practicing slowly, and then you will get, less frequently it goes there. That is the meditation, basically. It's impossible for everybody. I pointedly, specifically asked to several of my teachers, including Swami Atmananda, right? And then, so this is what exactly they said, that even for him also it's impossible sometimes to focus like an extended amount of time, that is. And also there are good days and the bad days. Sometimes I figured that when I sit there, some of the problems I have been struggling in my lab, I got the answers. Sometimes during the thoughtful time, right? Because I don't realize the mind is thinking of my problem there, that one.
Yeah.
So a lot of things, all kinds of things goes on there. But just don't worry too much. Just sit there, keep thinking of that, pick that one. Any mantra that
methods are there. That's the beauty. This book has one method which tells you to sit. You wanted to make sure that initially your focus is your body is not shaking. You're closing your eyes and you're trying to focus on your body. Nothing but you're making sure that the body is not shaking. Once you realize that, Swamiji will say that, look at the mind. Immediately it will go. So it's a very practical book. 5 practices are given. All these 5 practices are outstanding, like from his really personal experience. So I recommend this book, and actually Swami Chinmayananda has written several books, but meditation, this is one of his best. Means people always say that meditation and life. I personally like this book more than anything. This is a real workshop he conducted in Singapore, and somebody transcribed it and created a book. Of course, he himself wrote the foreword. Another technique I can just suggest to you, since of course we are spending for one verse, but this is good discussion, is since you know the music, That's an easy thing to focus. Like I always feel that a lot of people listen music, but they don't see it properly, right? So like, where is the notes going, right? What type of gamaka they use? Is that like a going up and down, or is that an oscillating? All that, if you really look the details of the song properly, that itself is a meditation. So that's what it is.
So, Rajaji, and all the experts, Jeena ji, Vijay ji, also please. Sometimes I feel that, you know, there being so many different techniques of meditation,
Did you miss it?
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, actually we cannot hear you now.
Yeah, now please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened, something on my computer. I was saying that, you know, it gets very confusing sometimes, the fact that there are just so many different techniques. How do we identify which should be the right technique for me?
It's very simple, Arnabji. What is working for you, right? So
Yeah.
there are hundreds of foods. Which food do you eat?
Yeah, trial and errors. That's it.
Right.
You try that. Yeah, you try and then pick one of your choice.
Pick one means you get it, right? You know that, okay, this is comfortable to me. Means, as I said, like the traditional meditation techniques was not working for me a lot. And that's why I was doing this one breath. And then actually it happened a long time back. And then this prana vikshana worked out for me. And all the 5 techniques mentioned in this book worked out really well for me. The music, looking at the music to find the details, how the notes travels, like what type of, means the creativity of the music director will be visible only if you go and look into this music pretty much. Vinodji, you have any comments? You're also a good meditator. You're with Vivekananda Kendra, and a lot of meditation techniques are there. Any comments?
No, basically, I always take my own personal experience. Like, I take an example of driving. I like to drive a lot. So I would always think, like, initially when I started driving, you know, like, I don't need to think about moving the gears from the first gear, because we don't use the automatic gear system in India. So we have this first gear, second gear, but then over a period of time, you just forget about the gear part. You don't even think about it at all, and you know. So I think the meditation is more like, you know, doing it and doing it and doing it. And at one point of time, you just get into it. I think nobody knows which is that one point of time. I think it's different for everybody in every way.
Yeah.
And once you get into it, you're in.
That's a good example, because initially when you drive, I still remember like how much conscious we are, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, you have to really, yeah, well, in the first gear, second gear, all that.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean that's the only example that I always use, because you know, for me, like I like driving, so you know,
that's a good example. It's a good example. Like initially you'll be consciously doing, and over a period of time you get it.
Absolutely, yeah, that's it.
One more follow-up question to this, Rajesh ji. Can meditation techniques be combined, or you know, if they are combined, do they become even more effective? So combined with devotionals and with prayers.
Of course, it doesn't matter, right? You can do any technique, but remember what you need to understand, why this is a tool, why we are using that tool. That's why Upasana Yoga. It's not the Upasana Yoga. The goal is to stabilize and calm the mind. So any technique you use, that is good. So you'll learn this in the 6th chapter of the Gita. Krishna makes it very clear on the and what Vijay said, right? Paying attention to something and making sure that when the attention is gone, bring it back. And Shankaracharya on the commentary initially starts with what Vijay said, right? If you think that the meditation is uninterrupted, forget it. That's not the meditation. Meditation means the ability, means to bring this back, and once you are able to do the uninterrupted state, it is samadhi. You are already transitioned into the next stage.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's very important. Okay, so it is 9:30. So thank you. Good discussions. This is how we should do the Vedanta class, because it is going to make you feel connected, and it will help you to understand the subject. Okay, Upanishads we should be doing only with this mind, because every mantra, it is mantras, because it is part of Veda, so it is mantra. So we need to deep dive into it, because it's not a study, academic study. Again, it is not philosophy, right? It's not a love for knowledge. It is you're seeing it. So you need to unpack and see.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti